Part 65. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 641. Chapter 641. Father Tang comes to make trouble for. Qi Zhan immediately stopped his hand, his face still a little ugly, lowered his head and asked Jian Yuman seriously. Tang Wentao snorted coldly and arrogantly, but for the sake of his grandson, Jian Yuman still endured it. If this matter got too big, Jian Yuman would have to be taught a lesson by Grandma Tang. Pause. Won't you two pay attention to your image? Jian Yuman resisted the urge to roll her eyes and paid attention to her image. The two people quarreling in front of her were her elders, so she had to restrain it. Because of Qi Zhan, Tang Wentao even forgot that he came to settle accounts with Qi Lile today. Tang Wentao's face was still a little ugly. He turned back to look at Qi Lile, Tang Feishan, and the other two, and reiterated his previous attitude. Feishan, are you really going to leave your father for this woman? Are you leaving the Tang family? In the past few days, Tang Wentao has not completely accepted that Tang Feishan left the Tang family for a woman. Tang Feishan lowered his face sadly and spoke in a hoarse voice. Dad, it's not that I want to leave you or leave the Tang family. I just don't want my woman to be wronged anymore. You usually humiliate Lili too much. Every time I see you humiliate her, I feel so bad. I don't want to see you continue to humiliate her every day in the future, or even any day, and I don't want to leave. If you can accept Lili's existence and agree to our marriage, I will not leave the Tang family, leave the Tang dynasty group. Tang Feishan is also betting that if Tang Wentao compromises, he and Lili will have an easier time in the future. If Tang Wentao doesn't compromise, he can only take Lili to live in other cities. Tang Wentao's face turned blue and white when he heard Tang Feishan's words. Are you saying that Dad is forcing you to leave? Tang Fei nodded heavily. Actually, all the initiative lies in your hands, Dad. We are all passive. Even if we leave you, you are the one who forces us to do so. Lili and I have tried countless times to change your mind and repair our relationship. But what I got was you being humiliated again and again. You're very good, you couldn't be better. Tang Wentao was completely angry, his high blood pressure soared, and he almost fainted from the anger. Tang Feishan saw Tang Wentao's appearance, and he was actually very confused and couldn't bear it. But now he couldn't bear the fact that Tang's father was cruel to him, but he still managed to endure it. Tang Wentao suddenly reached out and lifted their dining table. Jian Yuman prepared dinner for an hour, but Tang's father completely destroyed it. She hadn't even taken a bite. Dad, what are you doing? Tang Feishan looked at a table of wasted delicacies and looked at Tang Wentao in disbelief as he continued to get angry. Does he want to overthrow all the Qi family? What do I want to do? What do you think? I'm about to lose you as my son? Why should I endure it? What's the point of tearing it down? I'm going to burn down the house. I'm asking you again now, if you want to follow this. If the woman leaves, I will completely break away from the father-son relationship with you. Tang Wentao made harsh remarks directly. This time there were only single-choice questions. Either they stop being father and son, or they leave Qi Lili. You can tell from his attitude and tone that he is serious. You guys should stop arguing. I have decided to break up with Feishan right now. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 642. Chapter 642. Let's separate. 1. Tang Feishan didn't expect that Tang's father would threaten him to break up by breaking away from the relationship between father and son. When he heard what Tang's father said, his reaction was one of shock. He didn't expect that his decision would make his father say such heartless words. He would never have thought about it before. From his point of view, he just found another job and lived in another place. I never expected that the result would be like this, that it would be necessary to sever the relationship between father and son to threaten him to leave Lili. Tang Fei was stunned on the spot. Qian Yuman and Qi Zhan were instantly furious. How could they endure this? Tang Wentao, what do you mean? Are you speaking as a father? It is too selfish of you to force your children to make such a decision. Dad, is this appropriate for you? My sister has done something wrong, and I need you to use this attitude to force Faishan. You just don't like Lili, so how about breaking away from the relationship between father and son to force Faishan? Faced with their responsibilities, Tang Wentao remained expressionless and stared at his son, waiting for him to make a decision. Qi Lili has been sitting on the chair with her head lowered, her eyes constantly flashing, tears shining in her eyes, forcing herself not to fall down. There are too many obstacles in front of them, and they are not destined to be together. Qi Lili took a deep breath and stood up slowly. Qian Yuman and Qi Zhan's curses also stopped as Qi Lili stood up. Qi Lili raised her head, the expression on her face returned to calm, and she looked at Tang Wentao indifferently. Stop talking, Faishan and I are breaking up right now. Break up? Tang Faishan heard Qi Lili's decision to break up before he could fully accept the news that his father was going to break off the relationship. He never expected that she would tell her about breaking up, because they had long said that they would stay together for life, but he never expected that his father's threat would make her decide to break up. He always thought that their relationship was stable, but he did not expect that because his father firmly wanted them to break up, she would actually have the idea of breaking up. Lili, why do you want to break up with me? I haven't decided to leave you. Do you think I will abandon you? Tang Faishan was a little excited and his voice started to tremble. He couldn't accept his girlfriend's decision to break up for a while. Qi Lili shook her head and said in a calm tone. This is my decision for a long time. I have been hesitating to break up with you before, but I don't know how to say it. This is not a temporary impulse. Since everyone is here, I will inform everyone about this. After Qi Lili told this incident, she felt much less depressed. Impossible, you are talking nonsense. Tang Faishan felt bad. Tang Wentao didn't expect Qi Lili to talk about the breakup at this time. He never thought that this woman would leave his son so easily. He said such unpleasant words before, but he didn't let her back away. Unexpectedly, Qi Lili was asked to break up with the threat of a few words today. Sister, what are you talking about? Qian Yuman didn't expect Qi Lili to suddenly say breakup. After all, they were already preparing to go abroad, so the sudden breakup was unexpected to her. Especially a few days ago, Qi Lili told her some visions for the future. How could it be that just a few days later, her thoughts had changed? When I saw Qi Lili in a bad mood before, I thought she would be depressed because she had to leave him and her father. Now it seems that it is more than just this thought. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 643. Chapter 643. Let's separate. 2. Daughter, don't worry. Dad will definitely help you make the decision for your affairs. Qi Zhan came to his youngest daughter, grabbed her hand and comforted her, and looked at Tang Wentao with an even more unfriendly look. Naturally, Tang Wentao would not be convinced. Looking back at him, the aura exuded by him was beyond the comparison of Qi Zhan. However, Qi Zhan's protection of his daughter at this time made him even more aura than usual, not much worse than Tang Wentao. Far. Everyone present thought that Qi Lili wanted to break up with Tang Faishan because Tang Wentao said something that forced Tang Faishan to make a decision. Either breaking up, or severing the relationship between father and son. Lili, I won't break up with you. Are you breaking up with me because of my hesitation? I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have hesitated. Please don't say the breakup easily. You know I am willing to give up the inheritance rights of the Tang dynasty group for my feelings for you. Do you mind if one more person severs the relationship between father and son? Tang Fei worked hard, and all the hesitations he had before were gone. The only thought in his mind now was not to break up with Qi Lile. Tang Feishan's words naturally aroused the dissatisfaction of Tang's father. The artillery fire was instantly directed at his son, bombarding him with some unpleasant words, saying that he was unfilial and that he did not want his father for a woman. Hearing these unpleasant words in Qi Lili's ears made her even more determined to break up, not to mention she still had a lot of dissatisfaction. Qi Lili's face cleared up, she looked at everyone and reiterated her words unswervingly. Don't say it anymore. I want to break up not because Uncle Tang forces me. Today's meal is to inform everyone that I will not go abroad with Fei Shen and I want to break up with him. Why, there was not even a trace of gentle affection on Tang Feishan's face. Tang Feishan's excited look, Qi Lili saw, his face was still cold and calm, as if breaking up was a normal thing for her. Qi Lili nodded towards Tang's father. You can leave now, because your precious son will go home at night, and I will not take him abroad. Really, Tang's father still didn't believe it. He had made so many efforts before, and she didn't look like someone who would give up easily. I promise you, Qi Lili said firmly, looking directly at Father Tang, letting him see how serious she was. Tang Wentao had so much experience that he naturally saw that Qi Lili was serious. Although the breakup came suddenly, he still happily accepted it. There is no need for her son to leave her. A farce today can make Qi Lile leave. There is nothing happier than this. Tang Wentao left. Qian Yuman and Qi Zhan looked at each other and finally decided to go back to their respective rooms to leave time and space for the two of them. Everyone had left, and Tang Feishan's slightly pale face kept staring at Qi Lili's cold face. Lili, did you mean to break up in front of my father just now? You want my father to leave and stop making trouble? You don't really want to break up with me, do you? Tang Feishan opened his hands and hugged Qi Lile hard, almost wanting to rub her into his arms. He didn't like to hear her talk about breaking up. He still remembered the last breakup. It was so painful and unforgettable. He didn't want to experience this kind of feeling again. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 644. Chapter 644. Let's separate. 3. He still remembers the last breakup. It was so painful and unforgettable. He doesn't want to experience this kind of feeling again. That face that he liked more and more the more he looked at her, that cold attitude that he loved most, now that he was talking about breaking up, she was still so cold, which made him feel special pain in his heart. Fei Shen, I know you can't accept it for a while, but I'm not joking with you when I say break up this time. I really want to break up with you, and it's after consideration and not impulsive. Feeling the strength of Tang Feishan's hug, Qi Lili pushed Tang Feishan away ruthlessly and pushed him away from her arms. Are you serious? Tang Feishan's face turned even paler, and his heart ached violently. He was definitely no better than last time. Why? Why did you suddenly decide to break up with me? He still has to ask clearly about the breakup, and he doesn't want to be confused about the breakup. First, I don't want to continue to live this kind of life with you, and I don't want to live a life of uncertainty. You may think that starting a business is so free, but in my opinion, these are false and unstable. Your father, I'm going to break up with you, what advantage do you have now? Tang Feishan's eyes almost popped out of his head. He didn't expect Qi Lili to say such a thing. Was this what his beloved woman said? Second, judging from your father's appearance, even if I go abroad with you in the future, I will still be hated by your family. I don't like this kind of life, and I don't want to be troubled by your family when I return to city s. I don't want to be separated from my father and sister even more. Tang Feishan's eyes darkened a bit. He knew that he was aware of her reluctance to leave her sister and the others. He thought she was slowly accepting it, but that was obviously not the case. Third, I don't love you anymore. I have experienced repeated setbacks, and my love has slowly been exhausted. I would rather be held in someone's hand and cared for, even though the other person may be a bit noisy or even a bit shameless. But he will not let me suffer any injustice, or even let me experience the pain of despair, nor will he give me a bunch of painful decisions, but I have always lived a casual life. Sex, but after being with you, I have always had a bad life. No matter from the beginning of the false pregnancy, I was worried about your disapproval, to the later opposition from your family. When did I feel comfortable? We are just a man and a woman who are destined to be together. We are obviously not suitable, so why do we insist on being together? No one will be happy like this. Let's stop being so selfish. How much have we paid just to be together? In the end, it ended up with the worst ending. I don't want to leave my hometown, and I don't want to go to a strange city with you to get familiar with the surrounding environment again. I'm really tired, please let me go. Let her go, let her be free. They are just destined to be together. All unhesitating love will be tempered. Some love can become more and more courageous with every setback, while some love will only consume everyone's love and eventually end in vain. And she is completely consuming their love. Chi Lili, I said a lot. Tang Feishan went from being incomprehensible at the beginning, to being unbelievable later, to feeling despairing at the end. Why, when she said they were breaking up, she still had this expression on her face, couldn't she show a trace of reluctance? Isn't there the slightest bit of reluctance on his part? Will their relationship end immediately? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 645. Chapter 645. Let's separate. 4. Chi Lili's coldness at this moment, in Tang Feishan's eyes, was heartless. He felt so heartless that even if it was true that she didn't want to continue to love, she was too tired from love, so couldn't she be more frank? Is she accusing herself? That's the root cause of the breakup. Because of his character, he always wanted to find a middle point and wanted Chi Lil to be accepted by her father, but it backfired. Will the relationship between them cause more and more problems, and will it eventually be consumed by his family's situation? He and Tangyuj are brothers. Qian Yuman and Chi Lili also come from the same family. Why are their relationship paths and relationship results so different? Qian Yuman and Tangyuj are living happily now, but he has been making Lili suffer. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Because of the strong contrast, she began to no longer want to love him and wanted to give up on him. Think he is an unreliable man. Even if you break up, you still use an unfeeling tone and say unfeeling words. Is it all his fault? Let's go. Don't come to me again. I won't send you away, Chi Lil said coldly, turning around and going upstairs without mercy. Chi Lili raised her head and held her chest out, just like when they first met, as cold as a lotus flower, so eye-catching, but this time her back was so ruthless. Separate. Will there be a complete breakup this time? He doesn't want to break up, he wants to grow old with her. Chi Lili's back was indifferent and slowly disappeared from Tang Feishan's eyes, not even willing to look back. Is she really so heartless that she wants to break up with herself? Tang Fei left the Chi family in a lonely manner, with tears on his face unconsciously. He didn't even notice the tears on his face. The emotion is so deep that even basic emotions cannot be controlled. When Tang Feishan walked out of Chi's house, Tang Wentao did not leave, but stood outside the door waiting for his son to come out. When he saw his son walking out as if he had lost his soul, he walked forward stupidly, not even noticing his existence. Tang Feishan's appearance at this moment was like seeing himself back then. He also experienced this period back then, when he felt that his whole soul had been hollowed out, as if the sky was about to fall. Seeing Tang Feishan at this moment, Tang Wentao began to ponder whether he was really wrong this time. If that woman is really a bad person, will the son really love her with all his heart and end up bruised and bruised? She would even rather cut off contact with herself to be with him. But when I thought about how my son had worked so hard, only to end up with a breakup, I suddenly felt that it was not worth it. Why is it that his son was dumped? Even if he was dumped, it was Qilal who was dumped, okay. He was so angry. Tang Wentao chased his son and called him. He called him several times but got no response. He ran to him and grabbed his clothes, but he still didn't respond. He seemed to be a hollowed-out body without a soul. Even though he said some words of comfort, he had no reaction and kept crying silently. A worthless guy, Tang Wentao sighed meaningfully. Tang Feishan left, and Qilal returned to the room ruthlessly. The moment the door closed, the tears on his face burst into tears, and he hid his face in pain. In order to prevent her family from discovering her vulnerability, she bit her fingers tightly to prevent the sound of her distress from coming out. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 646. Chapter 646. Let's separate. 5. Her heart hurts so much at this moment, it hurts like never before, and it is more painful than the last time she said she broke up. She knew that she had to do this. If she didn't do this, they would continue to torture each other in the future, and eventually they would not love each other, and maybe they would hate each other. Their relationship continues to have cracks, and she must cut through the mess quickly to prevent each other from tormenting the other. She knew that with Tang Feishan's character, it would be impossible for him to break up with her on his own initiative, as it would only make things difficult for him. Then let her do the bad things. Break up early and forget each other early. Maybe it's impossible to forget each other in this life. Maybe they will keep each other in their hearts for the rest of their lives, but she will still cut them off with a knife. Qilai cried in the room for a long time, and there was a knock on the door of the room. Sister, are you in the room? Qilai tried to ask her sister to leave, because the tears on her face had already burst and she couldn't hold them back. She didn't want her family to see her fragile look. As a result, she only had a hoarse voice and couldn't speak normal words at all. She could hear her crying whenever she heard the sound. In the end, she chose to remain silent. How could Qianyuman not understand her sister and insist on knocking on the door? Lili, I know you are inside, please open the door. Qianyuman tried to say anything, but Qilai ignored her. She covered her face with her hands and cried in the room. Since you don't want to open the door, I'll say it outside the door. I don't know why you broke up with Feishan. You have to know that my father and I will support your decision. Whether it's a breakup or a relationship, without hesitation, we will respect you. Choose. Qianyuman stood quietly at the door for a while, and finally chose to turn around and leave. Qilai is fragile now, and she clearly guesses that her sister is reluctant to let go. The twins are telepathic, and she can feel her sister's mood and discomfort at the moment. She is definitely not as ruthless as she was outside now. Hearing Qianyuman's support, Qilai cried even more sadly, with shallow cries coming from her throat from time to time. This is the last time she cries. She wants to get over her emotional pain quickly and not let her family continue to worry about her. Qilai, you can do it, believe in yourself. It's not that we can't live without anyone in this world. There is no time that cannot help the trauma of poverty. They will one day become a thing of the past. The news that Qi Lili and Tang Feishan broke up immediately spread throughout the Tang family. Tang Feishan has not been at home these days. He reports at the door of Qi's house almost every day, wanting to see Qi Lili again. Qi Lil made up her mind and insisted not to meet him, preferring to stay in the room. I stayed here for several days, and I didn't even attend my brother's engagement party. I kept acting as a witness to my wife, hoping to gain some affection between them. It's a pity that Qi Lili is determined not to see Tang Feishan again this time. After standing there for 5 consecutive days, Tang Feishan disappeared. The gentle smile on his face disappeared at the same time, and there was a hint of indifference. He returned to work at the Tang Dynasty Group, but the gentle and cotton-like person he used to be has completely changed. He has become a workaholic who works day and night, trying to cover up the pain in his heart with high-pressure work. Tang Wentao felt a little emotional when he saw Tang Feishan's change. He was indeed his son. He used the same method to forget his love and sorrow in the same way as he did at the beginning. But he didn't know if he would be like himself in the future and could not forget the people he loved for a long time. I have been traveling for half a month, and I updated a chapter just after I got home. There were few updates during the travel period, but I will resume updating in the future. Occasionally there will be updates. Don't stop loving me, I love you. I have been traveling for half a month, and I updated a chapter just after I got home. There were few updates during the travel period, but I will resume updating in the future. Occasionally there will be updates. Don't stop loving me, I love you. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 647. Chapter 647 Love Rival officially meets one. Seeing Tang Feishan's sad look, Tang Wentao had some more thoughts in his mind. The summer vacation is almost over, and Qian Yuman will report to school in a few days. Not long ago, she just signed a formal contract and became an appointed teacher at the school. Because Qi Lili and the others broke up, the atmosphere in the Tang family became a little better, which made Qian Yuman even more reluctant to go to her husband's house. She was afraid that she would see Tang's father, so she impulsively rushed up and punched him, giving him a lesson for her old-fashioned thinking. Tang Wentao. Whenever she goes to Tang's house, Qian Yuman will be reminded of the fact that her sister was forced to break up with Tang Feishan. Her sister has been depressed these days. Although she looks calm on the outside and seems to have changed little from the past, people who know her well can still tell that something is wrong with her. In the past few days, Murongyi ran to Qi's house more and more frequently. This time Qi Lili did not drive people away again and again like in the past. The atmosphere has been so depressing recently that Tang Yuj received an invitation to the high school reunion. Qian Yuman actively urged her to attend, and she was so shameless and persistent that Tang Yuj, who had not planned to attend, decided to attend anyway. Qian Yuman's belly is now more than 3 months old, and it is slightly bulging, but not very obvious. In 2 or 3 weeks, her belly will be obvious, and in 2 months, she may not even be able to cover it. She wore a tube-top purple dress that covered her slightly bulging belly. She had such an excellent temperament that even wearing flat shoes could not hide her goddess aura. Tang Yuj, who is also wearing a purple suit, stands next to him like a pair of perfect match. This is a couple's outfit that Qian Yuman prepared a few days ago. It has the same color scheme and the same small logo. Qian Yuman went out to attend the banquet happily. The high school Tang Yuj attended was a famous aristocratic school in the city, so the hotel he chose was the only 7-star hotel in the city. The class reunion was held as grandly as a dinner party. The participants were generally between the ages of 26 and 28, and Tang Yuj was the youngest among them. Nearly everyone has achieved certain achievements in their careers. Before Tang Yuj showed up, it almost became a social gathering. Tang Yuj had not attended the class reunion for 5 or 6 years. When they heard that Tanyuj would attend, everyone was looking forward to this day. 20 minutes after the banquet started, they arrived belatedly. Tanyuj, who was wearing a dark purple suit, and Jian Yuman, who was wearing an exquisite dark purple dress, appeared at the entrance of the banquet hall together, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Almost all the men's eyes fell on Jian Yuman, and the women's eyes almost all stayed on Tanyuj. This eye-catching couple successfully became the focus of the night. The man who held the banquet, Zhou Ziyu, the monitor of their class, walked over to them. Naturally, there was a female companion beside him, but this female companion was Jian Yuman's annoying combination of green tea and white lotus. Clear. It was so haunting that he finally threatened Qi Yuqing and made her disappear from the surrounding area for a while, but unexpectedly she appeared in front of him again. It's just that this time she attended the class reunion in the name of class president Zhou Ziyu's female companion. Master Tang, it's been a long time. Zhou Ziyu stepped forward to greet Tanyuj and the others, but his eyes were always fixed on Jian Yuman. He was deeply fascinated by Jian Yuman after just one glance. He didn't expect that Tanyuj's wife was so beautiful. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 648. Chapter 648 Love Rival officially meets too. Squad leader, long time no see. Tanyuj smiled and held his hand, while blocking Zhou Ziyu's fiery gaze. He held Zhou Ziyu's hand with great strength to express his displeasure. Zhou Ziyu felt Tanyuj's unhappiness and immediately looked away in embarrassment. I almost got into trouble. I had been staring at Tanyuj's wife just now, forgetting her identity. Qi Yuqing saw Zhou Ziyu's behavior just now and cursed Jian Yuman angrily. She is already a wife with a child in her belly. She dresses like a vixen when she goes out and seduces every man she sees. With so many identities, she cannot stop her ability to be charming. You must be your wife next to young Master Tang. You are indeed the schoolgirl of our school, and the wife you have found is also a top beauty. Zhou Ziyu praised, and the people and colleagues who came over expressed their thoughts, and they all agreed with Zhou Ziyu's praise. For a time, Jian Yuman was drowned in praises. Hearing everyone praising his wife, Tanyuj's face was particularly bright, and he smiled happily and proudly. Hearing everyone praising Jian Yuman, Qi Yuqing became even more upset. On the surface, she pretended to feel the same, but she held Zhou Ziyu's elbow even harder. Countless voices praising their match made Jian Yuman's body feel light and airy. As expected, it felt particularly good to be praised. Meeting Tanyuj, the apparently eldest young master of the Tang dynasty group, was inevitably approached by a group of men and women, almost becoming the center of the excitement. Zhou Ziyu looked around and said with emotion, "It seems Infanner hasn't arrived yet." The students on the side nodded immediately. "Our school beauty is actually late. She arrived on time the last few times. The goddess must be getting more and more beautiful. I heard she was engaged before, and I cried bitterly about it." Jian Yuman raised her eyebrows slightly when she heard Zhou Ziyu's words. This name was so familiar. She also knew a person named Infanner. Although she only met her once, she still remembers his gentle demeanor, and she was a beautiful lady with great temperament. Just as Zhou Ziyu was talking about Infanner, a pair of beautiful people appeared at the door. Their ability to attract attention was definitely not much worse than that of Tanyuj and others. Their appearance immediately caused the students to whisper among themselves. "That cold man can't be our goddess fiancé. Look at the way they are holding each other's arms, it must be. Our goddess has come alone before, but this is the first time we bring a male companion. I guess it's my fiancé who has been engaged for less than half a year. Your goddess man is still very handsome. If Minko doesn't have a master, I would also like to pursue him." A female classmate drooled looking at the man next to Infanner. Another top-notch man belonged to another woman. "It's such a shame. Everyone's discussion also made Jian notice the person coming and looked at the door curiously. She was deeply surprised when she saw the person at the door clearly that day. The school beauty goddess they talked about was actually the Infaner she knew. And the male companion next to her was even more familiar to her. Jian couldn't help but sigh, this world is so small. She never expected that Infaner would be Tanyu's classmate in high school. A school belle, a school idol. How come you haven't heard Tanyuj say this before? Infaner and the others slowly approached Tanyuj and the others, when the male companion beside Infaner saw Tanyuj and his wife clearly. Guess who? Monthly ticket, recommended ticket. I haven't asked for it in a long time. Lots of votes, 10,000 updates today. Is it exciting? Vote if you are excited. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 649. Chapter 649 Love Rival officially meets 3. When the male companion next to Infaner saw Tanyuj and his wife clearly, his body stiffened. Although it looked like there was no change in front of outsiders, Infaner, who was holding him, could still tell. Infaner's eyes immediately followed his gaze, and when she saw a familiar figure, her eyes darkened slightly. It turned out to be her. Josio immediately stepped forward and greeted him warmly. Beautiful An, you are late. Are you being harassed by the man next to you and not letting you go out? Josio joked in a humorous way. Infaner shook his head with a gentle smile, his face flushed slightly, and he lowered his head shyly. Introduce the people next to you, Josio said. Infaner held her arm with her male companion and introduced him with a gentle smile. This is my fiancée Su Warong. Jian eyes were fixed on Infaner and the others, especially Su Warong. They hadn't seen each other for 2 months. After not seeing him for a few months, he has become a bit cooler and a little thinner, and his complexion is as strong as before. The changes are few, but noticeable. This was the first time she saw the two of them in front of her. In just 3 months, she saw a woman appearing next to Su Warong and became extremely calm. Once upon a time, whenever she noticed a woman next to her looking at Su Warong a few more times, or coming up to strike up a conversation, she would get angry like a jealous person. Seeing him and his fiancée Infaner together now is like seeing an old friend whom I haven't seen for many years. In addition to curiosity, it is more dull. Su Warong was different from Jian. Ever since he saw Jian and Tanyuj present, his eyes would always look at her intentionally or unintentionally. Seeing her holding Tanyuj's sweet smile, his heart ached violently. Seeing his wife being stared at by Su Warong, Tanyuj felt angry and pulled Jian back several steps. He even used his own body to block Jian from letting his wife be stared at by other men. Chi Yuking, who had been accompanying Josio, naturally noticed the changes just now, with the treacherous light flashing in his eyes. Jian, come here and say hello. This Infaner's fiancé, I remember that he seemed to be Jian boyfriend. Chi Yuking was innocent, but there was still a slight excitement in her tone, as if she mentioned it accidentally. Chi Yuking's words made Su Warong and Infaner freeze instantly. Josio and the surrounding classmates almost stared at Jian and Su Warong as if they were watching a show. What are you talking about? Tanyuj quickly looked at Chi Yuking with angry eyes, and Chi Yuking immediately showed aggrieved and innocent eyes. Josio immediately eased the relationship and smiled awkwardly. This world is really small, ha ha ha. Who doesn't have a few exes? The smile on Infaner's face was a little stiff, and she looked around calmly to explain. Where did you hear this beautiful lady's gossip? My fiancé and Miss Jian were schoolmates in the past. They were only seniors and junior students, not what you think of as boyfriend and girlfriend. Qian Yuman also stared at Qi Yuking with anger in his eyes and said sarcastically. Qi Yuking, your ability to talk nonsense is getting better and better. Qi Yuking deliberately embarrassed her in front of everyone, but unfortunately she couldn't do it. Not to mention that they were really just seniors and schoolgirls, and they had not yet reached a relationship between boyfriend and girlfriend. Besides, who didn't have a past? Which of the rich people present didn't like to play when they were young and didn't have complicated interpersonal relationships? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 650. Chapter 650 Love rival officially meets 4. Isn't it? I once had a classmate who was an alumnus of yours. He said that you used to go in and out together, and we were a very loving couple. Qi Yuking answered innocently, and even pouted aggrievedly, accusing Qian Yi. Man bullies people. Then you and Zhou are in and out together now. Can I think that the two of you are having an affair? Qian Yuman mocked. This is Tanyu's classmates. Qi Yuking obviously knows what to write, so she sneaked in join in the fun. She wouldn't let her watch the fun in vain, she could still see this little trick. Miss Manor and I are indeed seniors. You have misunderstood. Su Warong, who had not said a word in silence, spoke in a cold tone, and looked at Qi Yuking with a sharp look in his eyes. Light. Oh. Don't be mean to me. I heard what others said. Qi Yuking's eyes were red, and she hid behind Zhou aggrievedly, her voice even trembling, using her reaction to accuse a group of them of bullying people. The awkward atmosphere lasted for a few minutes. All the students around him dispersed. Zhou was also dragged away by Qi Yuking, leaving Tanyuj and the 4 of them alone. Enfanner saw Qian Yuman again and nodded slightly at her, and she nodded back. The last time Qian Yuman met Enfanner, she had a very good impression of her. She was gentle and virtuous, and she was a good wife candidate. With her taking care of Su Warong, she felt much more at ease. Just looking at their appearance, Enfanner and Su Warong are a perfect match. One is cold and the other is gentle and pleasant. Su Warong walked up to Qian Yuman and kept his eyes on Qian Yuman, almost glued to her. His eyes swept over Qian Yuman's belly. Long time no see. How are you? Tanyuj pulled Qian Yuman, hugged her into his arms, and swore with his chin raised possessively. With me, Tanyuj, taking care of me, can't I still take care of my wife? Qian Yuman bumped Tanyuj with her elbow and replied with a smile. Not bad. You are pregnant now, so you must pay attention to everything. Su Warong asked thoughtfully. Tanyuj hugged Qian Yuman into his arms again. As long as I am here, I will never let anything happen to her. You don't need to worry too much. You care too much. Snored. In front of his husband, he keeps staring at his wife. Does he think he is just air? Qian Yuman turned around and looked meaningfully at the sour Tanyuj beside her. Seeing his reaction, pink bubbles bubbled up in her heart. It's not that he doesn't care at all. When he sees the opposite staring at him, he still behaves as a husband should. Tanyuj's possessiveness made Su Warong frown slightly and looked at Tanyuj with sharp eyes. Naturally, Tanyuj refused to admit defeat and glared back. He has never lost in a competition of momentum. The war between the two men started right from the beginning. The two were hostile to each other and refused to give in. The war was about to break out, and tonight's dinner would become a battlefield. She is my wife. You are already in the past tense. Tanyuj crossed his hands on his chest domineeringly, raised his chin, and cast his contemptuous eyes on Su Warong. He is the principal wife now. Su Warong is just the past tense, and now Qianer has nothing to do with him. Past tense. Things about us seniors and junior girls will not change. You are also my senior. End of this chapter.